If going from exploring a graphite resource to going into actual production is like running a marathon, this company Gratomic is literally in its last freaking mile. So here's everything we can expect from Gratomic during the next couple of months, hopefully explained in an easy to understand and logical manner. Let's get right into it. Big catalysts. Thankfully for us investors and researchers, Gratomic has publicly shared their master plan in a very easy to understand format. And that master plan is this one, where 2023 will mark the first year of operations of their Alchem processing plant, but we are getting ahead of ourselves. Because at the time of recording, it's still 2022. And well, 2022 still has a couple of very interesting steps left to be taken. You see, neither Alchem in Namibia nor Capim Grosso in Brazil has a publicly released NI 43-101 resource estimation, which is just a fancy document detailing how much of a resource is in the ground, at what purities, and roughly how it can be extracted. And before that documentation can be released, a company does need to complete their drilling programs. Since well, you do need a lot of data for a data-driven study. As we can see from Gratomic's news reports, drilling seems to be going pretty well for both properties. In Brazil, Gratomic is actually drilling a second mineralization zone, and the company has completed 16 trench programs for this property to this date. And Alchem, well, Gratomic completed its first diamond drilling stage over there and actually might have found the largest graphite vein ever recorded during this diamond drilling program. So, like I said, drilling seems to be going pretty darn well. But please keep in mind, for both properties, Gratomic seems to be nowhere close to having sufficient data for the entire resource. And that is fine. An NI 43-101 resource estimation can also be released for just the first chunk of a resource, and this documentation can then be updated over time, which I assume is the route the company will be taking. I say that because originally the company told us they would release this documentation during Q3 2022, which would mean a public resource estimation really soon, before the 30th of September actually. However, Armando Verhate, the Chief Operational Officer, has sobered up this expectation a little.
Yeah, this is expected to be completed by the end of this year. Drilling for veins is a very tricky process. It's not as easy as drilling for regular graphite deposits that are very homogeneous. The veins, let's say, difficult to find, that they're narrow and they follow the path of the fractures on the rock, which are not always aligned. So this is a difficult process. We foresee that we might need to go further on the drilling process than we had initially anticipated. If everything goes according to plan, I would say between September and the end of the year.
Of course, this was cut up a bit for efficiency's sake. The link to the entire clip can be found down below in the description. Anyways, point being, realistically speaking, we can expect this documentation somewhere between September and the end of this year. So that is catalyst number 1. Resource estimations for both Alchem and Capim Grosso. We should get both around the same time, somewhere between September and the end of this year. Catalyst number 2, feasibility studies. Quick explanation. To publicly state the capabilities of a processing facility, like the one Gratomic has constructed at Alchem, a company normally releases a feasibility study. From this documentation, we'll learn a lot about the process they use, costs associated with the process and mining, but also just the general capabilities of the facility. And we are awaiting 2 of these studies, one for Alchem in Namibia and one for Capim Grosso in Brazil. We can expect these somewhere around that Q4, so September to the end of this year timeframe too. So that is catalyst number 2, feasibility studies. And I do suspect these to be a serious launchpad for our flight to outer space. Next up, catalyst number 3, turning MOUs into offtake agreements. You see, Gratomic signed a couple of awesome MOUs with a couple of potential clients. For example, the ones with technology, metals, markets. This deal got some amazing arrangements, like paying up to 70% 3 months in advance and getting some really solid prices for their graphite. So that is super exciting. But the thing is, for now these understandings are just that. understandings. And we are still waiting for those MOUs to finally turn into binding offtake agreements. This would be a significant de-riskment of the company, so a serious positive catalyst. And honestly, this could happen any day now, but could also be a couple of months out. Time will tell. And the last big catalyst I'm personally waiting for: revenues. This is the biggest catalyst of them all. Actual sales of graphite. Like I have stated in some of my other videos, I am no short-term stock picking messiah. But I can tell you this: exploration companies are valued differently compared to revenue producing companies. This is logical since, well, risk. Exploration companies are super risky, while revenue producing companies are significantly less so. Hence they are worth more. And that means if you are able to buy a company before they start generating revenues, you should be rewarded handsomely. According to my estimations, we might just see $10 per share and beyond in less than 5 years from now, which would be a 30x return. So we are talking about that kind of stonks. But before that, the company does need to start generating revenues at some point. The company is internally aiming for revenues during Q4 2022. So those revenues could be hitting the books somewhere around the Q4 earnings season. So that would be during Q1 2023. So like January, February, March, that kind of time frame. So those were the main catalysts I'm personally foreseeing and awaiting, with the correct time frames attached to them. However, do keep in mind that these time frames are bound to change. Honestly, that is normal for junior mining companies and it is to be expected. Again, time frames can and most probably will shift around, so be mindful of that. Of course, there are also a couple of smaller but still very interesting catalysts coming up, and credit where credit is due, Jay Turner has quite a handy list on CEO.ca, so I highly recommend checking out that forum for his list of those smaller and slightly less significant catalysts. And that was it from my side for today. We now know the major upcoming catalyst for Gratomic, and you can adapt your investment journey around those. Also, if there is anything you want me to explain or research, perhaps surrounding Gratomic or another company in its entirety, please do let me know down below. And with that said, thank you so much for watching. I love you all. Peace.